3 different developers that are wanting to talk with you. I am hesitant to say that they want to present to you because I really, truly do want this to be a time that as they are going over some things, you voice your opinions to say how you think this should look, what you think should be in it, what should be changed, things that the community wants to see. Because I will tell you, just like I told any developer that comes to talk to me, I am looking at what the community wants and doesn't want. And so the best way to come is to come first, trying to see what you all want and how you would change things or how you would improve things to make this a conversation, not just a presentation. Tonight, we also have, as you have already known, Mr. John Honeysuckle, who works for water, but he is also working now with Public Works. He is one of the main people that help me out and I get my information from because he knows so much. He is actually on this to only respond if you have questions about the water capacity, if something comes in your area, any type of questions like that dealing with these particular items. He is not here now to talk about water pressure for something else or Public Works for something else. I think I was starting to tell you at the beginning, I have kind of changed up my community meetings. When I have my regular community meeting, it will have the divisions of Metro like I had been having so that they can respond to your particular questions and talk about different areas. This is a separate, what I call a development community meeting. So this is only to talk about those developments so that you will have time to really question them. You have the agenda. We are going to go by the agenda. Each presentation, each conversation will be 20 minutes. So after your 20 minutes, let the next person go. I am saying to you, this should be a conversation. It should not be just a presentation. I know the developers have to give you something that they've got in their heads. They just can't come out and say, what do you want? Although I hope I will be moving to a space where when someone wants to build here, that is how we started. We started with, I've got this land, what do you all want to see? But we're not quite at that yet. So there should be times, and you can unmute yourself, and I am going to say, please don't forget to mute yourselves back. But I'm going to say, and I hope it's all right with the developers, if you say, excuse me, when you have a question or something you want to add, or you can raise your hand in the chat, and that's not even showing up on mine, but I think it'll show up on theirs. But I will also ask you, if you have a lot of comments, please hold back on those and let other people ask comments, and that, because I don't want any person dominating the conversation. Okay, any questions of me before I start and turn it over? Okay, then if you follow the agenda, the first group is with Sean Henry, and that is on Old Hickory Boulevard. And again, I do want to hear your comments. This isn't just to take in stuff. District 33, I want to hear your comments, not just what won't work, what will work, if things need to be changed to something else before you look at it, things like that. We need to hear some of that because this is going to be a conversation back and forth. So I'm turning it over now. I saw you on there someplace. Oh, there you are. To Mr. Henry.
Council Lady, before you turn it over to Attorney Henry, I do want to acknowledge a representation from the mayor's office. Ms. Kathy Buggs is attending with us today. So just want to let you know she's in attendance. So Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh, great. Where is she? Can she show herself so people can see it? Because I can't see it on me.
I am here, Council Lady, but I am not on the camera. I'm on my phone, so I can't.
Okay. Well, hello there. Yay. Well, thank you for joining us as well.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you for allowing me to listen in.
And thank you, John.
Attorney. Henry?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. This is essentially a follow-up to the meeting we had, I guess it was last month. It was about a month ago, where my client, Johnson Development Associates, and Andy Halligan, who's on this presentation, is here. As I understand it, we have 20 minutes, so he'll get the brunt of that. We certainly want to entertain questions, open to input from the community, and try to answer questions. But essentially, what's proposed here on this old Hickory Boulevard, which is just east of Hobson Pike, is a single use of the property. And what is being proposed, and not yet filed, no application has been filed, but what's being proposed is a distributed business wholesale operation. And I think we should just jump right into it. And for those folks who were unable to join us at the last meeting, Council Lady, I think it'd be helpful if they saw that prior presentation very quickly. I think it was half dozen slides, and then he can move into the two new slides that they have to share. So with that, I recommend we turn it over to Andy Halligan.
Great, thank you. Rosie, I'm going to share my screen here if that's okay. John, can you allow me to share my screen?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to get it to click on there to share.
Great. Can everybody see the image of the building? Okay, great. Okay, thank you all. I'm still not the best at high-tech Zoom meetings, but thank you. My name is Andy Halligan. I'm with Johnson Development Associates. We're a privately held, family-owned development company active all over the Southeast. We have this 12-acre site off Old Hickory Boulevard under contract, and our plan is to build two very high-quality Class A smaller distribution buildings that serve the last mile. Last mile is a buzzword today. Everybody today is ordering more and more online with direct-to-home service. It's created a lot of demand for smaller, closer in distribution facilities. What we have planned here, and I'll go through these slides very quickly. This is an image of what one of the buildings would potentially look like. This is a map of the overall area and some of the companies that are in the area. The area highlighted there in red is the actual site. Just from a land use perspective, Nashville next future land use map obviously shows the site as in the industrial district. Here's an aerial of the overall area showing a lot of the neighbors and some of these other distribution buildings that are in the area. Our site obviously there is highlighted with the star. There have been two, other very similar looking buildings that have been developed very recently and have just completed. Here, going specifically to the site, currently this is an image of Old Hickory Boulevard, and the two smaller buildings that have recently been built. Obviously, a nice improvement over what was there. There still are some unsightly laydown yards in the area. This 12-acre site, we're working with the longtime owner, and they've been very accommodating to work through this process. Going to the next slide, this is just an image of Old Hickory Boulevard. That road actually was just improved. It was widened, repaved with sidewalk and streetscape, and heavy landscaping, which looks really good. Obviously, our development would be on that same road. That is the access point for the site. Here's an image of the repaved road and the buildings immediately across the street. Obviously, new construction, a Class A look, and a nice improvement there. Our building with these two buildings, this is our site plan, which we have dressed up, showing the landscaped area. This is a rendered site plan of the two buildings we would want to build. We would shield the concrete paving area with office features, so no one could look directly into the truck court for the most part along Old Hickory. These buildings would look a lot like the buildings right across the street. We would maintain the buffer area. There's actually a stream. We would have a 30-foot buffer. Obviously, it has mature trees that have grown up. We would maintain that buffer with those mature trees, and we would have heavy landscape plantings in the areas shown there. But, we're excited about this plan. I think it could fit in very well with the area. These are not, they're a nice size buildings for being very close in. And let's go to, this is just a little bit about us and some other buildings that we build. We're active all over the country. And as far as the Nashville project, we bought a site and are about to start a building currently in Lebanon, up on I-40, a little bit larger facility. But there is increased demand for these smaller, close-in buildings that provide direct-to-home distribution. If you think about it, if you're ordering diapers or food, or really any consumable that's going to be delivered direct to your doorstep, it's going to come out of a last mile facility just like this. And we're excited about it, and think it's a nice improvement for the area and a great logistical asset for the area in District 33. I now open it up for any questions you may have.
Council Lady, this is Sean Henry. I do want to point out, and I don't know if I can share my screen, but we at the last meeting, we presented a two-page comparison of the current permissible uses on the property. And the property is presently zoned agriculture. And the proposal here is to rezone it from agriculture to specific plan. The present agricultural list of uses in the land use table, there's like 64 enumerated uses, accessory uses, permitted uses, uses permitted with conditions, uses permitted with special exception by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The proposal here is to simply put one land use on this property, and that's that distributed business wholesale. That's the end of our comments.
Okay, thank you. Let's open it up now, because I know I will have some questions or some input from some of the district. So please feel free to go ahead and ask them any questions or offer some changes that you would like to see or whatever.
I don't see my hand button. I always have trouble with that.
Go ahead, Tawana.
All right. The first question I have is about ingress and egress. I drove over there after our last meeting, and that's a really nice looking thing across the street. But boy, there's going to be a lot of traffic in and out. And it looks like you only have one exit that is specific to four-wheel vehicles. And the one that's for tractor trailers is, it's got such a sharp elbow there that if a truck is pulling out, they're going to have to cover both lanes. And then there's no other way for four-wheel vehicles to get in and out. I wonder if you have looked at making the access directly across from the one across the street so that you could have maybe a traffic light in the future. And then my other question is about water runoff. It's like 300,000 feet of additional hard surface, both roof and asphalt. And when I drove through there, it was right after one of the heavy rains, and the Old Hickory Boulevard was covered with water. I recognize that part of that's because it's a mess downstream, but it still would require some cooperation from either that property owner or Metro getting it cleaned out or something. So I would like to see if you can address that, because that's a lot of water additional going into that stream. Maybe you can do some rooftop landscaping or something. Thank you.
Very good questions and great commentary. Thank you for that. To address the access, obviously that left-hand turn going around the corner on Old Hickory, that is there are line of sight issues there that we would have to design around and work with the city on to make sure, the proper line of sight and vision is there. This is a conceptual site plan that's not fully engineered. That is something we would have to work with the city and our civil engineer and design professionals to look at. I think that answers your question there. But yeah, from an access perspective, that turn and the exact location of the curb cut is not final, but we certainly would want them in the most safe and efficient locations. That is a good point. As far as the drainage and the water, obviously we would be building these buildings to code. We'd have to permit the stormwater through the city and abide by all the regulations. We would work with our civil engineer to design just that. We currently have detention ponds shown on this plan. Those would be obviously designed to handle the stormwater that our site would generate in certain rain events. That's something we will have to work through with our civil engineer in the city for sure. And that's a very good point. That's a challenge to the site.
Hey, Tawana, can I?
But
I'm sorry, Eddie. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say one other thing. The creek that is obviously just north of our site. We would not be disturbing that buffer. Our storm ponds would be built to city code and current stormwater regulations, and they would have outfall structures into that creek, designed and permitted, of course. But it would be part of a broader system. It would be an improvement to the area where our buildings would not be negatively impacting anybody else's storm. That's it. Go ahead, John.
So, Tawana, I think one of the questions, I think you were talking about the interest and the ingress egress. They would, representing the public works side, they would have to do a traffic study. So that it could change the whole schematics of that interest and with a lighting, it may require that. It depends. Once they get their plans in and submit it, we'll be able to properly assess that once they did their traffic study and submit that in for our engineers to properly evaluate that. In regards to the stormwater aspect, yes, we have really got really tight on our stormwater regs because we don't want to negatively impact anyone downstream and or upstream or contaminate any creeks because we know out in that area there are creeks, and you being a historian out in that area, you want to preserve certain things. And that's one of the things that we will work with the community and also with the developer and their civil and site engineers to make sure that they follow those guidelines.
Thank you, John. I do want to make one other point. We've actually engaged and started a traffic study. We don't have it back yet, but we have started that. Thank you.
Any other residents that have questions or want to offer something?
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Goins. I have a question. So the Tennessee Basin is home to one of the most diverse and one of the most unique biomes in the entire planet, which are the Cedar Glens and the Cedar Barrens. And they are only found in the Tennessee Basin. They are home to around 10 or more plants that are only found in the Tennessee Basin in the entire world. And so I guess my question is have you done an environmental impact study? Why did you choose to build on agricultural land instead of brown land? And what would you do if you do decide to go ahead with this? What would you do to offset the destruction of this this biosphere?
That's a great question. The site is obviously zoned agricultural, but it actually has 2 homes on it and some small storage buildings currently. It is not currently in agriculture. But we chose the site simply from the proximity being so close in to Nashville, being able to build buildings closer in versus building far afield where trucks are and vans are having to drive further. We feel like this is closer to consumers. We also think, well, not think, but as part of our process, we will be doing environmental studies. We will be, studying the site to see if, there are any endangered species on the site. That's,
And will those be published to District 33?
That's certainly something we can look into. There are some, there are obviously no secrets, but if that is something that we would be sharing with the city as we work through the process for sure.
Okay.
Elizabeth, say that question again, please. That last question.
So my, I asked if this information of the environmental impact studies, if that would be shared with District 33.
Oh, okay. And Andy, I'm going to ask you if you right quickly would discuss, because I'm getting questions about, is this behind the Starwood area? Where is this? So would you very quickly, instead of just the address, kind of describe where this is?
Yes, ma'am. It is, if I could share my screen again, I could show a quick aerial of it. Can everybody see that? So the site is the site highlighted in blue. So Starwood is to the north, on the north side of the creek from this property. There's currently a warehouse adjacent. I guess that's to the west. And then there are the couple new buildings that I referenced on Old Hickory or immediately to the south. I hope this map is a clear depiction. Does that answer your question? Councilwoman, does that answer your question?
Sure. I was just reading that some people were asking that. So I was just trying to get that a little close.
I have a question if Elizabeth's done.
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. I actually travel that intersection a lot and it's already overcrowded. And the tractor trailers keep destroying the streets. I mean, they're awful. And obviously it's just gonna make it worse if we put another business there that's gonna bring more tractor trailers specifically. So that's just gonna make it worse because obviously we don't have the infrastructure. Can you explain to us how you are under contract if the land is not zoned for what you need? Is it assumed that it's gonna be approved?
We're not assuming that it will be approved. That's why we're working through this process. It is not a done deal. We want to do this project. We think it makes good sense from both a market perspective and a land use perspective. These are not super large buildings that are going to generate a lot of truck traffic. They're just not, they're not the very large buildings that you see in some areas. We are doing a traffic study that will, obviously indicate what we think, or what our consultant thinks that these buildings will generate from a traffic perspective, and we will be submitting that as part of our application. So that will go to planning and zoning.
That's public. Would that be public?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. My other question is, have you looked at other locations that are already zoned for what you need?
We've been looking for additional land to build buildings like this. There's very little land left close in with industrial use that has good access to the interstate and the necessary infrastructure for buildings such as these. If you know of any land, we'd love to look at it. But yeah.
All right, thank you.
Can you say?
Thank you.
Laverne?
I have one final question, if I could. I know we're running out of time. Can you possibly share a link to the original document, maybe in the chat or something, if you've got it on your drive? I know it's too big to email, but maybe you can share it so others can look at it. And would you please consider limiting the truck traffic to no Sundays and no midnights? There eventually, we expect, will be some kind of mixed use adjacent to that on the other side of the creek. And so we need to think about how it would impact the ability to get some kind of residential over there. Thank you.
And finally, I've been communicating with some neighbors over there via Messenger during this conversation, and they're actually looking at trying to ensure that industrial warehousing is not a acceptable use on that side of Old Hickory Boulevard. I guess moving to towards Murfreesboro Road, which would be to the east, I suppose. So there is interest in that, and as Twana said, you could certainly email it to us, or you could probably even upload it to this Zoom call through the chat room if you wish to do that. Because all we have is this 2-page thing.
Okay, so whenever
Okay.
we have things like this, I have asked, anything else that's presented, I have asked Rosie to get it out to everybody that's on this. I think she has the capability of doing that since she has your email. So we will ask that will be done. I have 2 quick things to say. Andy, tell me exactly how you fit into this. Will you be the owner of the building that you all are looking to do that, which then will say that you have a say-so about what hours things happen? Or are you just developing it and somebody else will own it, and so they have a say-so over the hours, what happens, and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Johnson Development, we are a developer owner. So we're building these buildings to own long term. So that we view this as an investment and a partnership. We would, if ideally a lot of companies that need to be in buildings like this or use buildings like this, they prefer to lease them. And we would want to own the building and lease it to them, but we would be a long-term investor in the area. So as far as hours of operation limitations, I mean, we're not the actual company that would be in the building. We would be more of the owner of the building, working with the tenant or the company operating the building. That would be their operation. There is a possibility if the company really wanted to own a building, we could sell them a building for a user-owned building. But by and large, our
I was only
intent is
asking to see if you actually had the ability to put some things in place or to answer some of the questions. Because I know sometimes if somebody else rents or buys, then that part's up to them. So that's why I was asking that. So I know this.
A quick question. I think he could, it would seem to me that any restrictions or negotiation about hours of truck operation could be put in a lease. Any lease has restrictions, but are there proposed tenants already, or who do you envision being the tenants?
That's a great question. We do not have a tenant, that we're talking to. We work with a lot of different companies. We think it could be, our targeted user would be, last mile, van operators. Everybody sees different vans delivering furniture or any kind of goods like that. We think it could be food distribution. This idea of ghost kitchens that everybody reads about, where production of food is then distributed. We think it's really likely to be last mile consumer based distribution of any kind of product that you can think of, clothes, diapers, just stuff that everybody uses, every day.
So you don't have proposed tenants right now?
We don't have proposed tenants. Sorry for the roundabout answer.
That's all right.
Okay, I am going to close this now only because we have two more. I will say to you, this group will be back because I see now that 3 groups at one time on a meeting like this is too many to get all of the concerns and questions that you want out. So I will change the way that we have these next time to give you more time. So just know, Andy, there will need to be follow-ups, and those that are on here will get the information, so I know they will have some more input to give to you. So please excuse me for hurrying it on, but I do want the other 2 to also have some time. So I am going to open it now to the Mountain View and the Murfreesboro Road development. Chris,
Thank you.
there?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Good evening. I'm Chris Cowan with Meritage Homes. We are a residential developer and home builder here in Middle Tennessee. Offices in Brentwood, but we've got projects all throughout Davidson County, Williamson County, Murray County, Wilson County, and Sumner County. Have a couple of projects close by the ones we're going to talk tonight, off of Old Hickory Boulevard in the Cane Ridge area. Clover Glen is one of our projects that's nearby these. If I can share the screen, I'm going to try and get some of the, I think tonight, since we've previously spoken about the property at 3124 Murfreesboro Road back in December, I'd like to focus the time this evening on the Mountain View piece. So I am going to attempt to share here. So everybody see there?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. So just a kind of quick vicinity map of the 2 projects that in District 33 that we've been speaking with y'all about. The 3124 Murfreesboro Pike here, but the one tonight, the Mountain View Road piece on at the intersection of Mountain View Road and Hamilton Church Road, kind of directly across from Edison Elementary School. We've it's a 22-acre parcel that, our land plan studies have produced something in this manner, which is 114 total home sites. 46 of those are single-family detached homes, and 68 are for-sale townhomes. The property is, as you can see here, I know it's a pretty visible piece of property because of the location. We are maintaining the existing pond that's on the property. And then also, I know what a couple of the other folks present were talking about, some of the environmental features on the previous property, and that's some of the things that are going on here in this green space. There's approximately 5 acres of the property that will remain in open space, kind of a passive recreation use. There's no formal amenities such as a pool and clubhouse that we would propose on a project of this size. Its present day use or present day zoning is agricultural. It's AR2A, which permits 2-acre lots, single family, 2-family dwellings, mobile homes. So, all of those are permitted uses today under that zoning. And there is actually a piece of the property roughly, I don't have the boundary on here, but it's roughly from this road back to the existing neighborhood that is zoned R8. So it could permit up to 27 houses. This parcel has 2 zonings is what I'm trying to say there. A piece of it, the AR2A, and a piece of it R8. And the R8 side, just kind of under base zoning would permit up to 27 homes on the property that would actually, access through the existing neighborhood to the north. I bring that up just as, just for the current conditions on the for this particular piece of property. I think one of the things that we've always a recurring theme from the residents, neighbors, staff, council members, certainly traffic. We have spent quite a bit of time with Public Works, Devin Doyle and his team on this project because of its location at this intersection. It's our understanding from those conversations that Metro does have a proposed road improvement plan for the intersection, which includes the addition of turn lanes at each of the 4 spokes, if you will, as well as a traffic signal. In those conversations, what we took out of it, we understand as we come into communities that we're looking to not only offset our impact, but hopefully have a really net positive impact as much as we can. So in the conversations with that Public Works, with their team, our understanding is that the project, while it's drawn and the engineering's done, it's still going through a right-of-way acquisition phase, and also trying to secure the funding.
It's not rocket science, Barb. I don't know why the hell you can't turn that thing on.
So somebody is not muted doing their rocket science.
Sorry.
But in speaking with Devin and his team, they don't believe that the project is fully funded yet. Therefore, not going to get started. One of the things that I talked with him about, and I've mentioned to Ms. Lee, is as a developer, we're looking for those things that again, not only just offset our impact, but hopefully can make a more positive impact. So I think that's one of the things with this project that we can envision that, this piece of property and the development of it could help, provide additional funding to get the Metro improvement project for the intersection of Hamilton Church Road and Mountain View Road to fruition. There's several details or all kinds of moving parts to that, but I certainly think, we understand that as part of responsible developers in the community, and, would definitely work to partner with Metro to try and get this long awaited roadway improvement work done. That's for this property. I think touched on the highlights there, and we'll open it up to questions from the group.
Yes, this is I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, so I actually live in the neighborhood behind the back end of the property. And it looks to be a public road that's going to connect the neighborhood adjacent to Maple Timber Drive. Can you confirm the name of that public road so we know where it's connecting? And also too, there's a lot of trees on the back end of the property, and we have a pretty quiet and nice view. How much of the trees are you planning to keep in that back area? And also my last question is, are those homes on that back end of the property, or are those townhouses? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So this is Maple Timber Drive. So that would be the connection tying to the existing end of Maple Timber Drive. And these homes that back up to the existing neighborhood, they are the single family detached homes. We will be required to have a buffer as a part of Metro's planning ordinances. There's varying types of buffers as we join other properties. Our intent would be to save all the existing vegetation that we can. Sometimes that makes sense based on the quality of what's there. Sometimes it makes better sense to, go ahead and replant it in a manner that's something that's more attractive and might provide a stronger buffer between the two neighborhoods.
This is Gilda. Who's moving into these homes? All this building, I'm getting blasted, everything in my neighborhood. Now I live up way up the street. I live close to the nursing home, but it's just concerning all this residential building that's going on. I mean, who's moving into these places?
I don't know if I can, specific demographics. I don't know that I could speak to. We certainly, as a home builder and residential developer, we're very conscious of the market and the amount of, supply of all homes out there, both existing and new homes. And, with what's going on in Middle Tennessee right now, and in particular, Nashville, the demand for new housing is still very strong.
I have a question, if I may. Have you bought the land yet?
No, we're under contract. We're in the development and home building business. So, we work with the hopes to rezone properties that we think makes sense for all parties. But no, we have not purchased the land.
Why did you choose that location? Because I travel those streets often, and those are really tiny streets, and they're not gonna widen those streets anytime soon or anything. So why there? And how many homes would you buy the land if you didn't get rezoned?
So the reason for the location, if you were to zoom out and just saw, it's residential all around it. We've got an elementary school across the street from it. And, really on all other sides is existing.
Do you guys consider all the crime and the lack of resources of the district? Because that's where we are right now. We don't have enough police officers. We don't have enough resources. So do you keep that? Or do you just sell the houses saying, oh, this is gonna be a great home, but in reality, it's gonna be, we have a lot of crime. So just a thought.
So I'll go back to the roadway question and then try and come back to that one. I think this, because of the level of roadways these are, because of the project that I was talking about previously that Metro's considering trying to accomplish for the intersection, there's an opportunity for some pretty significant roadway improvements in this corridor to occur. I'm not going to say solely because of the development, but I think this development would, has an opportunity to really help, to help that happen. So it's not just, put in here and minor roadway improvements. I think really this intersection needs a lot of work, and it's been talked about for a long time. And it's imminent may not be the best word, but there's an opportunity for it to occur now.
So you believe that because of you building, they'll fix the roads?
I believe that based on the conversations with Public Works and knowing how close they are to having fun, they've got a drawing design for the improvement. So these are not pie in the sky thoughts. I mean, there are engineered plans showing the widening of all four pieces of the intersection, including the traffic lights that Metro Nashville has worked on and is ready to execute. The only thing holding them up from my conversations with Public Works, the only thing holding them back from executing is securing the funding.
Excuse me, Miss Diane Polnitz, can you please mute?
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, please, Mr. Cowan. Twanachik from over in Cane Ridge. If you know, you've got a development just across the street from us here on Old Hickory. And our experience with that development was that every tree was removed right up to the property line, including cutting through roots of the trees on the adjacent property. There wasn't anything left except along the drainage creek that was required. Everything was blasted. Blasting is still occurring from that project. And then things are replanted back. And it hasn't worked out to be a very good environmental fit for our neighborhood. This property, the neighbors have already asked about buffers, and I think you said that you would put in the buffer that Metro requires, but our experience is that that's not a very significant buffer, number one. Number two, the stuff that you have marked off that you're saving appears to be the stuff that you would be required to save anyway. And I don't see any trails and stuff that help access that. And number three, I keep hearing you talk about the roadway improvements as though Metro is going to do the roads to benefit you. But what we feel is that you should be doing the roads to benefit yourself. The residents out here are all squeezed. We're getting it from every direction. And if you were to go back to that aerial that you had up a minute ago where you zoom back out, every green remaining parcel of land, even over to Anderson Road, is going to cut through to this. Hamilton Lane is going to go through, and then the other streets down further close to Kensal Green are going to go through. So you're looking at adding more numbers, and we haven't heard a firm commitment about what you would be bringing to the neighborhood. What we keep experiencing is more houses, more people, more houses, more people, not enough services to keep up, not enough schools, not enough police, not enough infrastructure of all kinds, and the complete loss and destruction of the green area out here that we just love so dearly. We moved to this area for the things that exist here, and none of it is being preserved. So I would have to say that, I mean, more is just not good for us. I don't see how neighbors can support this. I'd specifically like to hear what y'all would be doing for the roadways in the area. Thank you.
So a couple, the spaces that are retained, they can be developed other permitting and mitigation through the Corps and TDEC. So, you know, I think we are trying to be sensitive and respectful to those open spaces. I mean, that you can develop those. It just takes, you know, more permitting through various entities. On the roadway,
Chris, I'm gonna interrupt a minute and say, because I know you're trying to kind of lay back and present, but go ahead and talk about the conversations that we had, because I'm seeing questions about the 2 ways in. We had a conversation about that. We had a conversation about you all actually, if you wanted to come in this area, actually putting some money together to help Public Works to actually do some work on the road instead of trying to, and we don't know if it'll happen, but instead of trying to tip around it, let's just go on, because folks are like getting like, So go ahead and tell exactly what we talked about, and the piece of the land that you would be willing to, that we talked about perhaps donating, or some different things like that. So even though none of this is approved or anything, have some real conversation about the pieces that we talked about that would actually benefit the area.
that's right. So the conversations with Public Works, I asked, all right, how much do you think the project is going to cost, and how much funding do you have secured today? The number was, they believe the project's $1.2 million. Today, they feel like they have secured $800,000, so roughly a $400,000 deficit. My thoughts on that are, and that's today for a project, whether our project goes forward or not, those improvements need to be done, and another entire community has been you know, asking for and expecting that work to be done. But if Metro doesn't have the money, they don't have the money. We, as I believe, between this project and the other project on Murfreesboro Pike, which is not that far away and will have some influence of traffic on this, you know, could see a means where during the SP bill, if it was introduced, that each of these properties is requested to make a financial commitment to get Metro to Public Works to the finish line with the funding for this intersection improvement. That would be, you know, specific, stays in the district. It doesn't go into a general fund, but it gets this work that everybody's been expecting and wanting, which should relieve some level of traffic in the area. It gets Metro the money to do it. And so our, you know, from our side, we see that that's a viable, a doable option to get there. So that's what we're bringing. You know, yes, we are bringing some additional traffic. I mean, everybody can argue about the growth is already here. But today, based on my conversation with Public Works, they don't have the money to do this. I believe that through our joint projects that we can get the additional funding to Metro introduced in the bill specifically to stay there and make the improvements in this district. So that, you know, on the traffic, that's what what we would be bringing to the community, is get this intersection, get the funding, additional funding necessary to Metro to get this intersection and widening improvement work done.
So I've got
Chris,
a
I'm going
comment.
to, excuse me, John.
Go ahead.
Chris, I'm going to, because John has already called me out in the chat room saying that this was supposed to end at 7:30. And we've got one other person that is going to do something. So I'm going to ask if you had questions that you still needed to ask community, please write them down and keep it. Chris, we're going to need to do this again. I am now, and I know you may not have finished, I think it'd be best to have one meeting for one development so everybody can be prepared for what they're going to ask and do that and have time for everybody, because I know with all the folks sitting here, there were some questions that didn't have a chance to be done. So I know you all are going to fuss at me and say, well, you keep cutting them out, but I do want to give the other person a chance to go. So Chris, please forgive me, and I will say, I hope you will be back again so we can do that. And there is a Mr. Saeed
Yeah.
that, because it's 7:28 now, that hasn't even had a chance to say what he wants.
I would definitely give the developer a voice over that of your constituent. Thank you.
You're welcome, John. I know you didn't mean that the way it sounded, because I said I was going to have another one that would be just the whole meeting so that you all could have the conversation, because I think these conversations are going very well. But I do want Mr. Saeed to come on, and so you can hear what he says, and then we will schedule this at another time when we can have the whole hour where people can talk back and forth. Mr. Saeed, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm here just to talk about my land that I purchased 2 years ago. And I decided just to develop this land. If we can share the screen so I can show the map, please.
Yeah, and meeting for all, that'd be good.
Okay.
Sorry you feel that way, John. But Rosie, I think it may be able to be cut off. So you all may have to do something to extend it a little longer, because I do want folks to be able to hear the conversation some.
Are you able to extend, to share my screen?
We're looking
Because
at
I'm not.
Mr. Syed, we see your screen, sir.
Okay, do you see the map now?
No, you haven't chosen an object for us to see. It's your desktop.
He probably has a bunch of monitors.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. Well, it's very difficult share. I'm not sure how and why, but if you don't mind, I can just show you the map. I got it printed just in case. Okay, so this is Hamilton Lane. I shared this file with Rosie, and she should have it. So over here we got Hamilton Lane, and this street here is Anderson Road. I got 13 acres that I wanted to rezone from AR2A to mixed use. So basically, we are extending Hamilton Lane all the way through the land, all the way down to Anderson Road. This will take off some of the traffic load that we have in this area, because people have to take lots of loops just to get from Hamilton Church to Anderson Road. So people have to go through all these streets right here, over there, just to get from this point here in Hamilton Church to Anderson Road. So we're doing a mixed use because we want to put like a neighborhood market here. The house B165 Anderson Road also is mine. So I'm just combining everything together and putting a neighborhood market and a cafe. This way, we just create a little bit of business, and that, mixed use feeling, having, people, maybe work and live in the same place. We're creating some lots here just to put residential right behind the mixed use district. I got some pictures for the house's elevation. type of homes we're gonna be putting over there. They're high-end Class A. They're not gonna be cheap homes or very well designed.
Mr. Syed, I think you laid something over your microphone, sir.
No, ma'am, I don't have anything over my microphone. You can't hear me?
Your volume has dropped off to almost nothing. I'm sorry.
Make sure you didn't accidentally hit one of the F1s or something to mute yourself.
Oh, no, I'm not. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Here are the houses that the front elevations that I was talking about. These are the kind of homes that we're building.
Mr. Syed, Councilwoman Lee will stop me if she thinks I'm being too bold, but instead of talking about the house designs, can you start with some basics about how many you're wanting to build and how many acres and lot sizes and those sorts of things, please?
The land is about 13 acres in total. We are going to do the first couple acres on the front as mixed use, so we can put a cafe shop in a neighborhood market over there. And the lots we're intending to have about 50 to 55 lots. It'll be about 8,000 square feet a lot. And the houses that will be built on it will be about 2,500 square feet.
So as I see it, you're connecting from Anderson Road to Hamilton Lane, which will draw traffic through Hamilton Lane back out onto Hamilton Church. This will be about the 5th new subdivision drawing traffic onto Hamilton Church and Mount View in that area. So it kind of brings up the same issues that we're having with being inundated with traffic. Can you speak some about how much undisturbed land you would leave? There are, as my understanding, this is the old Hall's Chapel land. It's a very, very old farm. And there are people who used to live on it who are buried right around the corner in the cemetery. Can you speak a little bit about how much green space you intend to leave and other amenities in the neighborhood, and how you think a cafe would fit in the residential part of Anderson Road? Thank you.
Sure. I have seen that in multiple cities like Knowledgeville City, in regards to the cafe shop, you know, being right in the heart of the residential areas, and they're working very successful. That area doesn't have any shops. You know, the closest market is just Walmart, which is very far. So if we put a neighborhood market there, it'd be very successful. If we put a small cafe, like, you know, mom and pop shop, you know, just a neighborhood shop. I think that area needs it. In regards to the green areas, I'm not gonna cut all the trees. It's kind of a rocky land. It's got a lot of rocks there, very rocky soil. I don't have soil. So, I'm gonna preserve as much trees as I can. Also, I'm gonna create new vegetation. Create landscape.
We can't hear you when you like move away from the monitor.
I'm gonna get closer as much as I can. I'm so sorry. So I'm gonna create vegetations there. I'm not gonna cut all the trees. I'm gonna put the trees on the property lines. I'm just gonna leave them alone as like privacy fences. Also, I'm gonna plant new trees in front of each house. At least one.
And I will tell you, if you allow me to come on, part of the
Yes, ma'am.
conversation that I had with Mr. Said was that we wanted to start something new. We wanted to start opening it up when they bring things to you all to say, what do you want? Now, I know some developers will have certain things in the back of their head that they'll have to show. Yeah. But one of the things that I did when I met him, I had to meet him someplace outside of my district. I told him I don't have a coffee shop where I could sit down in my district and meet people to talk. There are several, lots of different things that we don't have in the district. So that's one of the reasons that came up, and not so many specifics, Tawana, because one of the things I told him was when we get here, we may say, okay, so tell me what you want. And he was very open to that. So I am going to, because I'm gonna say, because it's like 7:40 now, and I'm not gonna have us all night, but I am gonna give Mr. Said a chance to say some closing things if he would like. But I'm gonna say the same to him that I said to the other people. This isn't working with 3 on here and you all not being able to just have the conversation. What I would like for him to do is to come back, just one development, and then they open it up, and then you all have the conversations, not around what do you want here, but more around, as a district, if we accepted this, what would you want to see here, and how could he help out the district, that type of thing. So that I hope when we do have our other meetings, that all of you will come back, and hopefully we will get all of the information out so you can have that ahead of time, so that you will be able to make known the things that you want.
Okay, Ms. Lee. Just one thing. I'm Richard. I know Sammy pretty well. Great guy. We've closed a couple of transactions, or have done some transactions together in the real estate business. But I live about 1,000 feet from there, and there are designated commercial areas around Smith Springs, Bell Road. I would be opposed to commercial or any type of businesses going on that street. We're taking on a lot of negative things now on that street, but to add commercial in there, unless Sammy could help me turn mine into commercial, I would be opposed to a commercial strip in there. Now, the residential, I think, is ideal, and I would back him 100% for that. But the commercial strip, I just don't think it's a place to interject that.
And as Ms. Lee said, that I'm very open to any suggestion, whatever you think is going to work for the neighborhood. I work in District 33 and I live in District 33. I spend my entire day in the streets of our district, and I really want the best for the district. That's where my kids are growing, and I would love to hear your feedback and just share ideas if you have any ideas. But all what I'm trying to do is just to develop my land, and I hope that it adds to the community. And as I said, I'm willing to do any suggestion you have. I'll take it.
Well, Antoinette Lee, my name is Glenn Brooks. Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Glenn.
I've never really spoke, but I want to speak today.
Please.
One, and maybe we already have it, but I'd like a list of properties and what's currently able to be built on that property. Because right now I get on these meetings and all I hear about apartment complex and high density areas and our neighborhood And I hear nothing about infrastructure. And the last guy said infrastructure. He said, yeah, after we build it, they may build increased infrastructure. No, no, no. What I would like in this neighborhood is single family homes, a quarter to a third lot, so people park in their yard instead on the street. Because you go down a lot of these streets in our neighborhood and people park on both sides, especially these newer subdivisions they're building. And it's almost like going through a maze to go down the street. We need to stop that. That affects the property value in our neighborhood. And for someone to say, I want to bring in a business, no. Go take that business to Brentwood, Belmead, Bellevue. They're not doing that there. It's almost like Antioch is a low price land area and people are dumping on us. That's the way I feel. People are dumping on us and I don't want to see it. I don't want to even discuss it anymore about all these apartment complexes that built, they right on the street, little or no landscaping between the street and the homes, little landscape and green space areas in these apartment complexes they're building. Because I'm looking at these apartment complexes 5-10 years down the road, and they're gonna look just really bad if they don't have green space to take care of it. So that's all I got to say. But I would like that list of what can be built in the Antioch area, so I can kind of look at these things and go, okay, yes, we would like to have this built here, or this guy wants to change this from whatever residential to business, and we can look at it. But right now, I'm almost blindsided by these meetings that come up, and you want to build something that is not going to help the neighborhood, it's not beautifying the neighborhood, and the state supplying the infrastructure. Okay, let me back up. I would like infrastructure. If you're gonna build anything, and all these people on Mountain View Road that's building these apartment complexes, I want to hear that the city is already done put their money up to build, to widen the street or whatever they do for the infrastructure. I don't want to hear it after I build it, then the state's gonna do this, the city's gonna do this and this. No, that's backwards in my book, and it won't happen. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Glenn. And I think, let me ask you about your question. You are asking what type of things can be put in certain zonings area?
No, only in 33, because what I'm hearing too, I'm hearing, oh, this already was pre-zoned so they can build this high density, whatever in this area. And so I feel like blindsided. I've been here 30 years. And maybe I was working and I'm retired now, so I was maybe too busy to go to these meetings. I'm not sure, but I missed them. And now they have already approved for some high density that we have to accept because it was already converted to something that allows them to build that high density complex.
Glenn wants everything that what we've been asking for, which is a listing of all the properties in District 33, 32, and 31 as well, and the zoning that is on them and the capacity for which the entitlements, the capacity for the types of buildings, the number of units that can be built there. And from that point, we will understand what our capacity is currently to absorb all those people, all those businesses. And then we can decide about future developments in an educated and organized fashion.
You're muted, Councilor Lee.
Okay, thank you, John. And Glenn, I will see what we can get you. And like I said, and John may be able, because he's good at pulling up stuff. He and Tawana may be able to, what he said, want everything that's built in here, be able to pull that up as well. But Glenn, I really appreciate what you are saying, and I hope you will come to some of the other meetings. I don't know I have been a resident here before, and we never had this many meetings on development. So there's some things that came before I got in that I didn't even know was coming because we didn't actually have those type of meetings. And so what I'm trying to do now is to have more meetings and let you all hear that. And so that may be part of what's going on as well. But if you are actually in 33 and you are not on my database, then, and Rosie, please put your email address over in the chat. There is a 33 database that is run out of the Metro office, and everybody who was on there also got an email of some of the presentations. Now, I mean the presentations that were done today. Now, I do understand that some of the presenters may have added more information so that we are going to see that all of the presentations that we have, if there's not a link over, because I saw a link put in the chat about one of them because someone said it was too many, it was too large to email. But if it wasn't, then we're going to email that out to the folks that are on here. But and also there is a District 33 Facebook page where things are posted, but my Facebook page where I post things is Antoinette W. Lee 33. You may want to get on that too, because if there's some information that I know beforehand, I try to post it on there so you can look at it. But please keep your eyes and ears open because, like I said, we're going to do this again, and we're not going to have 3, we're going to have 1 so that people can be heard. And so, John, we won't be trying to hear from developers before our constituents, because that is not what I was trying to have happen here. But we will have an open forum so that you not just can say, why are you doing this, but you can say what you want. That is one of the things I want you to do, what you want. Now, I will tell you, and I'm Glenn, or the other gentleman who said they didn't want any commercial there. One of the things that I had been hearing before were people wanted little restaurants, sit-down restaurants and things. So that is one of the reasons why I always suggest that to developers. But I'm trying to get the things that you say. So if you come out to the meetings, then you can say the type of things that you want, and then we can hold their feet to the fire on things, and we can ask them, okay, you need to put a certain amount of money down with this to help with this infrastructure instead of us just waiting for it to happen. So I do want these meetings to be proactive type of things where you say, this is what we need to see as we have the conversations. Because when you have the conversations, what bounces off one may go to another and make somebody else think about something. But that's going to be enough.
Ms. Lee, can I just add in there that to the question from Glenn about developments and entitlements, there is a wealth of information on the government website, and what you'll find is that many of the rezonings were done back in 2002 and 2008 for some reason, were big years for that. And so a lot of the stuff goes back that far. And then if you'll look at large chunks of property that are owned, you can see most of them are owned by developers already. And so that tells you it's not bought in order to be a single family residence. It just isn't. Sometimes we can end up having more of a voice because they're required to come back to council or planning, but that means you got to come to these meetings. You got to take the time to be involved. We can't sit by and expect one person or two persons or even 5 to do everything. And John Stern is very good at the planning stuff. So maybe we can have him get with planning and do a little class type thing for folks on how to figure out some of this, because it does help to come in having a little more information. We're way behind the learning curve, all of us. So thank you. I appreciate you having the meeting.
Councilor Lee, I need to ask you a question.
Yes.
Well, I'll make a comment first. I like that 1-hour meeting per developer. I think everybody will benefit from that. That's absolutely great. How often can those type meetings be scheduled? Once a week, once a month? Are there restrictions on how? I know it's new, You may not have this answer yet, but like I say, it's a great idea. And I just wonder how often meetings like that can be scheduled.
They definitely will not be scheduled once a week, Billy.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe twice a month. And we may be able to get some in more than that, because I also will be having my regular community meetings that I try to have once a month. And that will have divisions of Metro to come in and talk to you about like the drag racing, regular water stuff, public works, trash, and those type of things. So I don't want to have so many of the other meetings that we can't have those as well. And so it depends as well, because I am more of an in-person person. So it also will depend on how fast we get that herd thing going on and we start to meet again, because I feel that if you can meet and look at the plans and point to the plan and say, no, we don't want this here, that there, that might help too. So it's not going to be once a week, Billy.
Okay.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
I have a request. Do you think it's possible? We're sitting in I guess, a unique little section of the county where 33 and 29 connect. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that we could possibly have a combined meeting with you and Councilman Porterfield? Because one thing on one side of the street affects something that happens on the other side of the street. And Anderson Road is I guess a dividing line for both of them. Is that something that has ever been done, or are you open to doing that?
Oh, I'm open to doing that. I'm not open to having all of my meetings with 29, but if there's some things that are in that area, sure.
Well, there's lots that need to happen in the area. And with you guys working together as a combined force, we as a whole could win. And that's the reason I'm asking if you would be open to having a meeting, not every meeting, of course, a meeting with 29 as well as 33.
Yeah, that's something that she and I plan together, and we know what we're going to talk about, and it affects both. Sure.
Councilor Lee, can I leave a little brain teaser for your constituents to think about? Because I love coming to the meetings. You know, I'm in District 2, but I think you all have kind of christened me in out at 33. So I do want to share this with you all. And Councilor Lee, pre-COVID, this is something, you know, we were having all those meetings on when we were having multiple departments come in and sit around a big table doing a big come to Jesus meeting, talking about ways to enhance the community without utilizing taxpayers' money. Now, I think that's the brainchild of what we want to accomplish here. And I think you all agree you would rather someone else pay for it than you. Can you nod your heads and just say, yeah, if you know, blow your nose or something like that, it's okay. So that's what Councilor Lee and several other council members were sitting around prior to COVID kicking in and us doing that. I want to leave you all with this. I know we talk about the development and what they're doing. The question is infrastructure above ground or below ground?
Both. Okay,
exactly. But the major for this area, we have to customize it now. What is it that we really are targeted out here in this area? You got to get that infrastructure underneath the ground. You're upgrading your sewer, your water lines, your roads, and we're working our way back up above ground. So just think about that when we're looking at the overall things. Now, who should pay for that? If nothing comes out there right now, what happens to the infrastructure? You all go just like you normally do. So when you look at development coming out there, start with that right there. Just something to think about. John, you know I'm telling the truth. I mean, your hair is longer than mine, so you know I'm not telling a tale. That's something to really think about. And that's what Councilor Lee was working on. Part of the legislation that COVID kind of put a hold on it, but we're looking at ways to, hey, if infrastructures need to be upgraded in that area, who should pay for it? Not the people that's living there, it's the people that want to come there.
We all pay, John. We all pay.
Right.
But the builder pays, or the developer pays a little bit more because he's the one that's making the money. We're just going to benefit by it, but if we benefit by it, we should pay. I have no problem with paying. I just don't want to be run over.
And that's and agreeing, I totally agree with that. But we need to start looking at, and I work for Metro. So I'm telling you what I see when I'm looking at things that come into communities. I know that for sure, especially in District 2, that's the way we look at it.
John, and that's, thank you for breaking that down. But the only thing about that is that means we still have to then relinquish more density to the developers before we see anything above ground. That means we have to agree that the additional density is okay. And when we think about infrastructure, we're thinking both below ground and above ground. And if we had to prioritize it, I think then that's a conversation the community needs to have, because the reality is then that affects the quality of living for everybody in the district currently. We are the ones that deal with traffic. We're the ones that are dealing with overcrowding. We're the ones that are dealing with poor schools or lack of teachers or lack of classroom space. Even with some extensions and additional schools, we were already overcrowded at 130%. So we have to deal with all of that. And then how long will we deal with all of that before some of the other infrastructure, above ground infrastructure comes? And so, maybe we need to have another conversation about what that really means then, the below ground infrastructure, because while it's also needed, we have to also think about our quality of living where we currently are in our current investments.
Oh, I totally agree. So that's why I put it out there as one of them teasers, something for you all to think about, because that may be something you all can have just a meeting on, talking about that's strategic planning on the infrastructure side. Just something to think about. So
no, it's a very valid point, and it's something I think we've been asking Councilwoman Lee about for quite a while, but we keep having meetings with developers. We need to have a meeting with Councilmember Lee to talk about District 33 and what we want and what we don't want. That's the conversation that needs to be had, not more conversations about developers and what they want. We know what they want, and they're not coming here to make our lives easier here. They're coming here to put a development in and sell some property and sell some housing. So if we can sit down and have the real conversation about what we want in District 33 and what the real commitment is on behalf of Metro to do the things that our tax dollars are already currently paying them to do, that's the real conversation.
Okay, I want to thank you all so very much for your comments. It is 8 o'clock now, and I know some of you are fussing because this was supposed to be over at 7:30. We are going to do the other meetings, and I'm going to have a community meeting very soon, and we will have some people from Public Works and different things that can maybe have some conversations around that piece, the infrastructure piece too, to see where they can put that money up there. And I'm just going to say it's starting to lightning and thunder here again. I don't know if it's doing it in your area, but I want you all to be very careful and watch out there and be prepared, because they're saying that this is going to be a terrible storm coming. But I want to thank you all so very much for being on tonight.
Thank you to all the presenters. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe.
Have a good evening, everybody. Be careful.
And don't forget to pray for Rosie. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.